Howdy, y'all. It is just me today. Well, not quite. We are joined by the Tuna Cam. This is something that I might have teased just a little bit last time. And I'm proud to say that, for now at least, Tuna is willing to cooperate. He's been, wanting to move around quite a bit. There was a bit of time where he spent just casually on the floor in like one particular spot on the floor. But for now, he is cooperating. He's on the bed, and he's adorable. If he moves a whole bunch, then I'll probably have to turn off his camera. But for now, he is with us. Uh, Hello, welcome. If you're out there, go ahead and just give a wave in the chat. Um, come say hello. In the meantime, you should know that DQ Systems AxCon Accessibility Conference is it's this week. In fact, it's actually tomorrow and Thursday. Um, and um, yeah, there's tons of great speakers. If you look at the lineup, it's phenomenal. There's a ton of people that I'm really, really excited about. We've got Haven Gurma, we've got Dave Rupert. You just so many fantastic people who I follow, and many people who I don't, and yet totally should. Um, so it's going to be great. The talks all look fantastic. I'm super excited to be spending, a few days just kind of watching these talks. Um, so absolutely, if you have not signed up already, I believe you still can. So I'm gonna put that link in the chat. Even though for now I think it's just Adrian, and Adrian is totally all signed up already. Yeah. So AxCon tomorrow, Thursday. It's going to be great. You should absolutely join. So, what are we going to be doing today? I in one of my personal projects is that I'm building a tea logger app for my fiance. Just like anytime she drinks a tea, she logs it. Along with her feelings about that tea, what ingredients she tried it at, what temperature she steeped it at, and she has the option to give it a rating. Now, I made a decision pretty early on in the project that I would use a UI toolkit called Semantic Ui. Um, and truthfully, I kind of regret that. Semantic UI looks lovely, but as with I think any component library, you're gonna run up against the library's opinions, and all the configurability that the library needs. You're gonna like run headfirst into those, and so the moment you need to do anything custom or do anything your way, you're gonna hit this barrier, and I've hit that barrier more than a few times. But specifically, one of the things that had me really, really thinking was that the Semantic UI component library includes a rating widget. Um, so here we can see a few examples. These are the docs for the rating widget in question. I'll stick that in the chat. Yeah, so here you can see we've got a few examples. Um, I mean, we've all likely totally seen controls like this before, right? Oh, you can select a rating. You can select, oh, I think it's 5 stars. I think it's 1 star, 3 stars, etc. Sometimes those rating widgets might even be clearable. That like you could click the current rating and it would clear the rating altogether to say like a not applicable. That's not always the case, but it sometimes is. This rating widget got me thinking though, because I was really curious what the markup of this would be, to create the experience. So the experience is that really and truly every star in here seems like a button, its own individual button. In fact, if I inspect the markup here, we're gonna see that it's you know far from semantic here, right? We've got a list of stars. It's a div. Each of the stars in there is an I tag, and they all have a whole bunch of aria. they've got this role radio, which is interesting, right? But absolutely nothing here is semantic, and this is partially by design. This is partially because of the constraints of the component library, where semantic UI is trying to be a one size fits all solution for everyone. It's trying to be the component library to rule them all, and therefore its opinions shouldn't get in your way. I totally think it does end up getting in my way, um, but Semantic UI provides, like, if you're using the React component library for Semantic UI, there's an as prop that you can pass to override which component or HTML tag any given element will render as. So I could go in and I could say, like, oh, for this rating widget, I could say as equals button, and it would render an array of buttons. Um, so to do this, Semantic UI, weirdly enough, just absolutely shirts semantic markup. And that's because the semantic in Semantic UI is really about semantic class names. It's about defining class names that give the presentation that you're looking for. Um, and those class names should, in theory, map onto just about any HTML element or any React component that you've built yourself. Um, I disagree with that mentality. I think that the way this library positions these controls, I think. Oh, he's getting up. He's just turning around. I'm gonna be distracted by my own cat. Um, I think that this approach, this semantic class name approach, um, actually encourages weaker practices because as far as users are concerned, like they can just um, plug and play the components. They're they don't have to care about the semantics of the components. The library handles all that itself, and I wish that the library had some like stronger opinions in that regard. I wish it took a stronger stance. I understand why it doesn't, but I wish it would just implement the semantic markup from the get go instead of having to try to like hijack in keyboard behavior and ARIA attributes, hijack that in dynamically on value neutral components just because, in theory, you should be able to pass like as equals anything. Um, so I wanted to see what it might look like if I were to start from an assumption of semantic markup. Not have to deal with that whole configurability that semantic UI is trying to address. Just purely start with what I think the markup should be. I wanted to see if I could do this in a progressively enhanced way. I think progressive enhancement is one of those terms that we don't talk about nearly so much in web dev these days. Um, so the idea of progressive enhancement, as I understand it, is you use the most minimal possible, weakest possible tools to create the minimum viable experience. So you get something working, you get the experience working with the least possible tools. And then you can enhance on top of that. So you're not providing like everyone still gets a working experience, right? There's nothing broken, but then you can provide extra enhancements on top of that. So one example, for instance, actually from my day to day, we our page has this centerpiece of a table, and some browsers, hey Shepard, welcome to the party. Some browsers support a CSS style called position sticky, which in the case of our table effectively means as you scroll down the page, the table headers can like kind of cling to the top of the page so they don't scroll out of view. You can always see what those headers are. But those browsers, those are modern browsers that support that, right? Not every browser supports it, but other browsers that don't support it, like Internet Explorer, they just work as like a table as usual, right? It's not broken. The like it's still a fully functioning table. Internet Explorer users just don't get the extra niceness of the table headers clinging to the top. So um, you provide the minimum viable experience. In the case of our page, it's a table, and then you enhance on top of that in a way that experiences that support those enhancements get those enhancements, but you don't break anyone else. It's a bit of a different mind shift, and I don't think we think about that nearly so often in this day and age because um, very often I think the progressive enhancement story kind of translates into, well, we should avoid JavaScript because JavaScript is bloated and you can get away with using semantic HTML, and that story I think often doesn't matter so much when you're already dealing in frameworks like React, right? Like where the default position in frameworks like React is you're gonna ship a bunch of JavaScript anyways. So fiddling around with things like progressive enhancement can seem kind of pointless because you've already bitten the bullet. You've already committed to just shipping gobs of JavaScript to get the experience that you want. What's the point in fiddling with optimizing the experience here? So part of what I wanted to do today was build a progressively enhanced rating widget from Semantic Markup. I wanted to see how long I could go. Hey, Nasty Director, welcome back. I wanted to see how far I could go with just HTML and CSS. See how long I could go without bringing in JavaScript. And then I wanted to seriously think about if any of this is worth it, right? I'm fully going in thinking that this might be kind of a fool's errand. I want to see if that holds true. Hey, we've got Mike. Yes, so Mike, welcome to the party. This is Tuna. Tuna is great. And he's going to be our mascot. He's going to be our rubber duck today. And he's going to be spending a lot of time cleaning himself. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. Yep. Alright, so I wanted to, first of all, get the markup right. And I think that there are tons of ways we could go about this, right? For instance, I mentioned here that this experience that we would get from Semantic Ui, I believe Material UI, shout out to Mike, whose company helped really created the Material UI component library. So I think a lot of rating widgets will do something like this, which is they'll have basically a rating is a series of buttons. In this case, we've got 5 buttons. And I could tab through these, and I could hit, well, not space, but enter. Nope, I guess it is. Hang on. Let's figure out what the command is here. Yeah, there we go, it's enter. So I could, tab through these, and I could hit enter to select the one I want. It's really a series of buttons. And I think that's one way you could have this experience. But part of what really got me thinking was, this is a sequence of 5 or potentially more buttons that all correspond to one value. And that felt weird, right? To have to tab multiple times to select one value. And so I was kind of thinking that this made a lot more sense to me as a radio, as a radio group. So my thought was that one rating widget would be one single focusable entity. You would focus on that, and then you could use the arrow keys to scroll through. And that's all behavior that we get for free out of the box with radios. So that's how I'm going to go ahead and implement this. And we'll see just how well I do with radios. It's been a while since I've written anything radios. Let's see, this is going to be value, let's say 1, and then input is self-closing. Oh, and then what we're going to need, if you want to have a group of radios, you have to give them all the same name. So I'm going to call that name rating. Alright. Adrian, I wish I could take credit for the purple blanket. That's actually my fiance's purple blanket. Well, I guess now it's Tuna's purple blanket. I guess is more accurate to say. But my fiance is really into purple, and that means between this stream and my blog, and her fascination with purple, we just end up with a whole bunch of purple stuff. Yeah. So purple is the best color. Agreed. Well, weirdly enough, for the longest time, I did green more than anything. Anyways, I've got purple people eater. At this point, I've got a nice radio button, and this is actually looking pretty fine. I think the default radio buttons look pretty good. I think another experience, perhaps even the more like semantically pure way to do this, but one that I couldn't think of how to progressively enhance on top, would be a range. Right? You think about like rating widgets are really asking you to pick a value between like 1 and 5 inclusively. Um, so input type equals range. I think it's min equals 1, max equals 5. I think there's probably ways to get display steps. I don't actually spend a whole lot of time with native form controls, as I should spend more. But like if you think about it, like this right here, this is really and truly the like minimum viable rating widget. Right? It's you're selecting a value between 1 and 5. However, I like the clickability and hover states of radio buttons, and I don't actually really know how to do that with range types. So that's why we're not doing that. We're going to be playing around with radio buttons. So the next thing is even still before we make it look fancy, I want to give all of these inputs a label. That way we enhance the kind of clickable region for each of the radio buttons, and this way we can also help screen reader users understand what each value actually means. So I'm gonna do this. I might have to, let's see, and 4 equals, I guess I'm gonna give, seems like there's an awful lot of like boilerplate you need for radio buttons in general. But yeah, if I click over here where it says 1 star, like it automatically selects the first one. It would help if I spelled label correctly. That might help. Let's go ahead and set this up for our others. There we go. ID equals star to. What are all of y'all working on this Tuesday? What's new in y'all's world? While I get this boilerplate going. Here, make enhance. Oh, okay. It's gonna do that for me then, huh? Let's see. Adding Google Analytics via Firebase to a React Native app. Loads of fun. You know, at some point I need to like actually like spend some time learning React Native. Mike, is that something you'd be interested in coming on and just kind of showing me the ropes? Let's see. Shepherd's reheating bibimbap, and I probably mispronounced that. And frying a fresh egg to go on top. Exciting lunch break activities. All right. Adrian's working on a lot of Java. That's all API work, right? You're doing API work for that? Nasty. Refactoring some Sass. What kinds of things are what kinds of things are you refactoring? Because I've been hearing some people talk about they're struggling with basically Sass's whole like nesting thing, which I find really interesting because that's like one of the things that I really love about Sass. Is that nesting? Okay. Cool. So yeah, at this point we now have some labels here. So a screen reader user could navigate to this form. They could pick any one of these. Yeah, they could pick any one of these. They would get an announcement as to like which one they've selected. This is great. The next thing is we probably want to make this look yeah, sorry. So we've got a minimum viable product, right? This is working. Users could select 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star, right? The next thing is we probably want this to look like a rating widget. So I'm gonna try. I think I want to try something here, which is that I want to make the inputs invisible. And then I want only the labels to be visible, but even then I'm not actually going to have the labels themselves be visible. I want to have each of them show like a star icon, and I think that star icon is going to go in the before. Let me, I guess, kind of show you what I mean here. So let me make sure I've got all of this syntax right. There we go. Oh, cool. So you can click on yeah, you can click on the before for a label, and it will also trigger that radio button. Good to know. At this point, I'm now going to search for like a star character to like copy and paste. I just want like the star symbol. Help me out, Wikipedia. There we go. All right. Let's see. All right. This is already starting to come along. Um, the next thing that I want to do is I want to hide the label text. I'm gonna do this with you've maybe seen in some of your projects there's like a utility class that floats out there. Some libraries call it SR only, which is short for screen reader only. Others call it visually hidden. I like to pull this from Scott O'Hara's article Inclusively Hidden, which I will definitely put the link to in the chat. But basically, this is a utility class that will make something invisible to sighted users, but still expose it to assistive technology. Because browsers, if you use like the traditional display none or visibly hidden, browsers treat that as a cue not to expose that information to assistive technology like screen readers. So you basically have to like hack your way through, um, and kind of the most robust approach that accessibility accessibility fans will or advocates will use is basically use clip to make this thing really really small. Um, so instead of using this visually hidden like as a CSS class, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna say that let's see, input type equals radio. Just gonna select these things directly. Let's see. All right, already coming along. Um, we we can. It's harder to tell, but we are still selecting each of these inputs because that's what label does, right? Is label provides extra like clickable area. Jacob, hello. Good to have you. Um, yeah, so we because we're using label and we've associated those labels to the inputs using the for and the ID here. Um, we're basically saying that this label is like part of the clickable area. I want to see now if I can um, get away with making the label disappear. Ah, no. Okay. Um, so if I do this on the label um, disappears, but also so does its before. So I need a bit of a different approach here. Um, I suppose I could go in and I could wrap this in a span, and that would like cause this. I feel like there's got to be another way though. Can I do? Is there like clip none? Um, it may just be easier to go in and add a visually hidden. Okay, let's try that. Um, cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have in here a like in each of our labels I'm gonna have a span class equals visually hidden. This is gonna say 1 star. let's see. Yeah, looks like we've got that. Um, and I'll go in, I'll do this for all the others. 2 stars. If I were doing this in my editor, I could do this like all at once. VS Code has so many good tricks. Um, by the way, I should probably stress that I do not feel like I'm like the strongest CSS person in the world by any stretch. So if at any point I'm doing something that just seems like fairly wrong, or there's like a tighter, cleaner way to do it, let me know. I would be super curious. Um, cool. So to clarify our markup that we've got here, um, we have a bunch of radio inputs, and each of those radio inputs are like have an associated label. Um, that label has 2 things going on. First of all, its internal contents are visually hidden, and they have like the human readable name of this um, of this star. Hey Chan, welcome to the party. Um, yeah, so there's visually hidden text. The label also has a before element that's not visually hidden, and that's what's going to give our star-like appearance that we've got going on here. Importantly, we haven't broken any of the markup, right? In fact, we still have all of those inputs going on. It's just that the inputs aren't like visible. They've been more or less like replaced with the labels before elements. I want to confirm that by having let's do um, you've been here the whole time. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to our label before. I'm gonna say that this is colored yellow. There's probably like, is there a gold? I feel like there's a gold. That's probably, yeah, that's gonna be more visible there. I'm gonna bump this up font size, make this 24 pixels, mostly for the purposes of our demonstration. Cool. And then what I want to say is the so every star up to and including the selected star should be gold, right? But the other stars should be gray, like a light gray, something like, conveniently light gray. So I want other stars to look like this, and probably also have like just be like an empty outline, that kind of stuff. That way it's not relying on color alone. But every star up to the selected one and including the selected one should be gold. But the way CSS works is, unfortunately, we would call it like a look behind, right? So if you wanted to see everything before a point, that's really hard to do with CSS. In fact, I don't actually know that it's doable. So instead, you have to approach everything as everything after a point. And so, whereas I would think of this as stars are gray until we make them gold, the way CSS is going to require us to do this is going to be that stars are gold until we make this gray, which is interesting, but I think we'll be able to make this work. So how do I know whether a star should be gold or gray? Well, it's up to whichever one is selected. And I can do this. I want to say it's selected. It's not liking that. Is it checked? Hang on. Radio button selected? It might be checked. CSS. There we go. It's checked. There we go. Everyone wants container queries. I want to look behind selector. Yes. Both of these things would just make CSS even more powerful than it already is. Yeah. So this will get us whichever radio button is checked. And then I want to say any label that follows the checked one should be gray. And I want to say that's the tilde? Let's see. CSS tilde. This looks convenient. That's really interesting. General sibling combinator. I think this is gonna work. Let's see. So, nope. I promise I have my tabs right. All right. So checked. We're gonna get the label, and then we're gonna get the before. So this should say we're gonna get the before element, the before pseudo element, for any label that follows the checked input. I think this should work. Let's test it. No. Interesting. Well, what have I... Oh, it is working. I just had to pick a different option. Yeah, so here we've got a totally functioning rating widget without any JavaScript, and that was way easier than I thought it was going to be. Okay. So yeah, I am currently clicking here. Now you can't see it, but I'm using the arrow keys to go left and right. Interestingly enough, we can loop around. So radio buttons, yeah, I do agree, Chen. This is a really elegant solution, I think. Actually, more elegant than I was anticipating it would need. Maybe the next thing we need to do is see if we can get half stars working. That's the one I think that's gonna terrify me the most. Yeah. I had a train of thought and I lost it. Okay. Do y'all have any questions about how this is working, what this is doing, why I made the decisions that I made? Half stars, yeah. Half stars seem really difficult to me, right? Because I think like as far as I can tell, there's not actually a half star character, or there is a half star Unicode character, but it's not like supported. It's not supported on my Mac at least. So I feel like at that point we'd have to start getting to SVGs, and I just don't think we have time for SVGs during this stream. But I think too that would lead to. Tell you what, let's see if maybe we can just kind of play with doing some half stars perhaps. I'm gonna have to like change the markup to do this. Yeah, so a few things to highlight here, right? Like we're not relying on any JavaScript, which is nice. I never want to position JavaScript as the villain, right? But I do think that the pendulum of web development is swinging more and more towards static sites again, thanks to tools like 11D, thanks to, we've got static site generators like Gatsby, and even, React is moving towards like server components, right? Like, so the idea is we want to be shipping less and less JavaScript, because JavaScript is kind of a pain for bundle sizes. You can produce large bundle sizes. JavaScript gets parsed later in the browser's flow, which means that if you're doing everything with JavaScript, you're gonna introduce like multiple delays in the end user's user experience, and there are problems with that. So you can absolutely ship JavaScript. That's totally fine. But I think the pitch is, here, for me at least, if you can get away with not, right? Like if there's a way you could do something without JavaScript, or at least without client-side JavaScript, strongly consider it. The other thing is that JavaScript has a failure mode, which can be devastating, which is that if your client-side JavaScript fails, the page can totally break, right? Whereas in this case, if our CSS were to fail, for instance, if our end user didn't receive any of the CSS, right? Like this right here is a totally viable experience. It's not pretty, but it's totally viable. It works. It gets the job done. an experience like this also works just out of the box with forms, right? Whereas if we were gonna do the like semantic UI experience, because this is kind of making a control out of multiple controls, you have to like find some way to extract the form value and include that with like the form submission if you're doing this as part of a bigger form. Um, Native form elements used for their job, I think can provide um, a just cleaner experience. There's less we have to worry about as developers, I think, in terms of getting all the interactions right. And finally, our experience is going to work even in experiences that just have no concept of um, of CSS, right? No concept of styles. Um, so for instance, if we were to pull up the page for whatever reason in like a smartwatch or something like that, like there could be a supported experience for that as well. Um, so yeah, that I thought this was going to be a whole lot more code, a whole lot more workarounds, but it ended up not being very much, especially because if you've got an application of scale, you likely have a class like this already. Um, Hover. Yes. Okay. That is definitely something I forgot and wanted to get to. So thank you for calling that out, Chan. Yeah. How do we get the hover stuff working? For that matter, how do I get my demo displaying again? Who knows? Let's see. What if I update this? There we go. All right. So one of the nice things with this experience, as much as I kind of criticize it for being, a series of buttons that you have to like tab through, right? One of the nice things about this is it's got a really lovely hover experience, where as you hover over it, it shows all of the stars up to the point that you've got. I think for that matter, we can probably we can probably do something very similar to what we've got here, right? But instead of checked, it's gonna be um, it's gonna be hover. Let's see if we can do this. So everything up to okay. So first of all, I think of this as I want to know two things. First of all, is the group as a whole being hovered, or is there sorry, that's the first thing, right? Is the group as a whole being hovered, and then the second thing is um, the like which star in the group is currently being hovered. So I think if I'm wanting information about the group as a whole, I might need a container element here. So let's call this class equals rating group. And this is going to close that. We can confirm that this group works if we do border. Let's see if this works. There we go. Yeah, so we've got this. Let's see. I'm going to set width. Or I think it's max width. What am I looking for? I think it's width max content. There we go. So now our div is only as big as the rating widgets inside. Yeah. So now I'm going to introduce some more styles just to kind of play around. I'm going to do this a little aimlessly, perhaps, because I just want to see what the different experiences are here. So if you're hovering inside the rating group as a whole, maybe we want to set the... Let's make this like really obvious. Let's set the label. So these are all of our stars. We're going to set the label before to be tomato. Tomato is scientifically the best CSS color. And now if I hover in here, you can see that this updates, which is incredibly cool. I think that means that we can actually copy and paste this and do what we were doing before with the tilde. But here, if you're hovering over a specific label, then any label after that might be, let's make this really obvious again, aquamarine. Our CSS rules are starting to get a little less than readable, but we still at this point have no JavaScript. Matt, hello! Oh my god, and that works. Okay. You know what? Let's make the experience even better here. Cursor pointer. That's not quite working. Oh, wait, no, it's, what is... Let's see. What is it when it shows the little glove? I was so sure it would be pointer. Let's look up CSS cursors. Who knows, y'all? I don't think it's the end of the world, but it'd be nice to know what that was when it's got the little like glove that indicates like, you know, when you like hover over a link, for instance, it turns into the glove to be like, hey, yeah, this is interactive, right? What about showing through the gold color of the previous selector, previous selected? So, can you help me understand what you mean by that, Chan? It sounds like you're saying, hey, even if I'm hovering, I still want to show that one of the stars is actively selected, right? Let's see. If we were Amazon, we could make the cursor turn into an error or stop sign when hovering over stars 1 through 4 and only allow users to rate 5 stars. You know, we totally could. There is something to be said for user experiences meeting business needs, perhaps. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, because I hear what you were saying, Chan, on like, when we've got, you know, an experience like this, like, you can still see when something is gold, right? So if I hover on this, right, everything up to this point retains its kind of goldness. Well, no, it seems like the hover definitely supersedes the gold. Oh man, it's gonna be a fun one. Yeah, might be nice if 1, 2, 3, and 4 are still gold while 1 is tomato. Uh, Y'all, the tuna cam is the best decision. Um, it's almost like therapeutic. Like, hello, welcome to your Tuesday morning relaxation. Today we will be joined by Tuna the cat. Tuna the cat is relaxed. He is sleepy. You are also relaxed and sleepy. I am typing on the keyboard. This is ASMR, I believe. I don't regularly watch ASMR. Yeah, okay, so let's see. That is something else. Okay, let's see if we can get that, like, nice hover experience. Hover supersedes gold. But right now, the implementation is all gray during hover after the hover target. Yeah, maybe, you know, maybe mechanical keyboard is what I need, Shep. All right. Yeah, so let's see. Hover up to, yeah, it's like, can I just comment this out? Is that all I need? No. Okay. Red, the fastest color. If you know, I have seen enough sports cars to know that for sure red is 100% the fastest color. It just, you know, it's science. Can't help it. Okay, so we need. I feel like we're gonna need 2 rules to make this happen. One, we're gonna keep the. So this is gonna be every star label after the hovered one. We're gonna, I think, resort to our gold. And then I think we have to do once more with feeling. I think this is how we have to do this. I think that's gonna get us to have it to where the if I'm right, if I'm reading my CSS correctly, if I think what this is gonna do is this is gonna say um, every star label that follows the checked star, which in turn follows the hovered element, is gonna get the light gray. I think this should work. Let's see. Oh, do we know if the before or after content gets picked up by a screen reader? Yes, absolutely. And I think using a star character for this is kind of a mistake, because that can and will get announced. When browsers expose elements to assistive technology, one of the things that they look for when they come up with a name for a thing is because the name is like the key indicator for how something gets announced. One of the things that they look up is the pseudo elements, the before and after. I've actually written an article about this, and 100% I'm going to pimp that. It is. Should be this one. Yeah. Nasty, feel free to give this a read. Let me know what you think. Specifically, there's a bit in here that talks about. Here we go. CSS generated content like the before and after. The one link Ben does not have ready is their blog. Yeah, you know, I always know like these topics could come up, but then I don't want to be like, oh, I happen to have this at the ready, like you know, like it's a vanity thing, right? Like you gotta like maintain some veneer of improv, you know, just casually. This might help. Um, Anyways, let's see if this actually works. Yo, okay, that's super cool. Okay, so to clarify, what's happening here is we're saying every label. So, um, when you're hovering over this group, there's like three different rules going on. When you're hovering over this group, it sets all stars to be red. But then it's saying, okay, any star that's after the one that's being hovered is actually going to be set to gold. And so that's what we see here, right? Like I'm hovering over star 2. Any one of them that's after that one is going to be set to gold. But then it says, just kidding, any star that is after the checked one is actually going to be gray. And that gives us this neat little effect of like we can have this kind of like nice interactive experience here. And it's quite literally golden. Excellent. That's really cool. Man, how far you can get with just a bit of like CSS and HTML. And again, I want to stress this is going to work for people who are navigating with a keyboard, for people who use screen readers. It's going to work natively as part of your forms. It requires absolutely no JavaScript. It's just really cool what you can do with a good selector. Yeah, let's pretty this up just a little bit. Let's remove that border. I wish I could get the pointer working. I feel like I've gotten this part wrong here. I would love to have it to where it shows the little glove, but I can't. Yeah. The nice thing too is this is one focusable entity, so you don't have to tab a whole bunch. If you have a bunch of stars, you don't have to tab through all of those stars, which is super nice for a keyboard user. I think the next thing I want to do is figure out how to get this to clear. Make it so that ratings are optional. And here, I think we are actually going to need a bit of JavaScript here, because radio buttons natively don't support clearing. And so I think we're actually going to cheat at this a bit. I'm going to introduce another... I'm going to introduce another star here. It's going to complain because I'm duplicating names here. So I'm going to say star 0. And this is also star 0. The value here is going to be 0. Let's see. Does this work? yeah, so it seems like we've got an extra star. But in reality, I don't actually want to show this as a star. I want this to like be a like null value here. So I'm gonna cheat just a little bit. Kind of put this visually hidden stuff right here. Let's see. Yeah. So now we have another radio. This radio option indicates like, hey, there's like no stars, no rating. And currently I'm so I've just selected 3. If I use the arrow keys, I can actually go back to where there's nothing selected. Whereas previously, if I comment this out real quick, previously the experience for if there were no stars selected, or if I were to like go, sorry, if I were to go left, it would like circle around and be like, actually, surprise, 5 stars. So here we've been able to emulate like, oh, you can actually, using keyboard navigation, you can actually clear this out, which is interesting, I think. However, many users aren't going to be using keyboards, right? It would seem weird to provide that functionality for keyboard users, whereas many people are going to be hitting this with a Tuna's such a great co-star. Thank you so much for being a great sport. Yeah, so it feels weird to have an experience that's available for keyboard users and at the same time not available for mouse users. It's a little backwards, you know? So let's figure something out. Again, like I mentioned, radio buttons out of the box don't natively support clearing. So that's why we had to introduce this like faux option. I think at this point I can introduce gasp some JavaScript. So my thought is if you click on the currently selected star, then you should be able to you should be able to clear it. So Shepard, it's more likely than you might think. Let's see. What is the best way to go about this? Let stars equal document dot query selector all. And I'm gonna have this be every label that's inside of our rating group. All right. Actually, no. This should probably be the inputs. And then stars dot for each. So we're going to iterate over our list of stars. For any given star. I'm just trying things out. We'll see if this works. I'm going to do star dot add event listener. And then, so the point of this is that the value doesn't change. You've opted for a star that that doesn't change. What event would that be? Tuna has star power. I agree. Thank you, Adrian. I actually don't know. On, let's see. Radio, is it unchecked? I was gonna try to. Let's see, unchanged perhaps. Let's see if this works. Console.log change. Also give it the event. Let's see. Who knows? I'm so used to just being able to like, you know, casually do stuff like this with React. And I think if anything, that might be one of the bigger takeaways, is it's like good to just like practice doing this kind of stuff without frameworks, even if you've got like a framework driven project, you know? Let's see. So if I click on this, I'm getting a change. What if I click on it again? I don't get a change. Okay. I suppose I can use clicks though, because specifically the point of it is to track clicks, right? Because keyboard, you're not going to be like reselecting a thing. So that might be it. I think I have to go, not the input, but rather the label. And then, so now stars is no longer a set of inputs, but rather a set of labels. Um, and this is going to be click. Click. See if that works. All right. So we're clicking this multiple times. So the next thing is I want to check if the clicked label corresponds to the selected input. Then we want to do our clearing. So I think let corresponding input equals, so our star, which is a label, has a for attribute. Get attribute for. There has to be like a more JavaScripty way. Like this DOM manipulation has to be a thing. Adrian, good to have you. You should join us next week, Adrian. We've got Randy on. I'm super excited for that. All right, so corresponding input. Now we need, well, input ID, because this gets us the ID of the input. Then the actual corresponding input could be document.getElement by ID corresponding input ID wild. And then if corresponding input dot checked, then I'm gonna just console log giraffe. We'll see if this works. Maybe I shouldn't just like casually refresh my pen. That would be maybe a bad thing. Nasty, good seeing you. All right, yeah. We're gonna be wrapping up in a few minutes, anyways. So let's try this. So I've selected 2, nothing changed. Selected 5, nothing changed. I mean, the value's changing. But if I click it again, yeah, you can see we're getting some giraffe logs. So we're able to identify when someone re-clicks the same rating, which is super cool. So the next thing I want to do is I want to set their value to be 0. So let's see. I think I'm gonna do let null star equals document.query selector. I'm gonna flex my attribute selectors here. Value equals 0. I think null star dot checked is true. This may be a very bad thing. This may not work. We'll see. Okay, so I can select 4. And if I select it again, okay. Yeah, that's not gonna do it. Who knows? I could do 4 equals star 0. So this will get the label. So null star is actually now our label, and then wonder if I can do click. Who knows? Sometimes you just try things with DOM manipulation, right? Just to see if it'll work. I don't know. At any rate, whether this worked, whether it didn't work, the important thing is like the ability to clear the rating widget could be seen as an enhancement, right? And this logic here, this is far smaller than if we were going to try to like invent all of the like rating widget logic ourselves. Instead, we get to lean on the native browser behavior, which is I think incredibly cool, right? It ensures that we're compatible with non-browser agents. It ensures that we're compatible with assistive technology such as screen readers. It's less that we have to write, and keep in mind, we didn't have to implement any focus logic or anything like that. It was just there for us, like, out of the box, and I think that's extremely cool. That's something that I'm a big fan of. So I'm glad this worked. I think it ended up being way less code than I thought it would be, and I think I could genuinely see myself using this in in some sort of static site experience, which I think is extremely cool. Y'all, thank you for joining me on this kind of experiment. I just wanted to see if this could happen. This has been something that's been on my mind for a while. I wanted to see like how feasible it would be to create an experience like this, and I'm very pleased that it was. I'm gonna put a link to this in the chat, um, if I can find the link. But y'all, it's been. I actually don't know how to share this. Oh, here it is. Share. Copy link. There we go. So feel free to like play around with this. Let me know if you do anything with this. I would be incredibly curious to see what y'all do. Thank you for joining me this week. Next week we've got Randy Brown. Randy Brown is I would consider him like a mentor-like figure to me. He's going to be talking to us about the world of building mocks for tests, which is something that I don't feel like I have a whole lot of knowledge about. I think he's pitching this as specs, mocks, and tests. So if testing and test-driven development is something that excites you, you should absolutely come join us. It's gonna be great. And yeah, one more pitch for AxeCon, which is tomorrow and Thursday. Go sign up. And if you wanna if you wanna follow me to keep up to date with what all of the different streams are gonna be, go to twitter.com/someanticsdev. I've just put that link in the chat. Thank you again for swinging by, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.